Good morning. Today we begin reading the book of Vayikra, the third book of the Torah, the book of Leviticus. But the Hebrew name Vayikra means, and God called Moses. We all know that God came to Moshe at the burning bush and said, you have a mission to go take the Jewish people out of slavery. Ultimately, Moshe fulfills his mission, not only taking the Jews out of slavery, but bringing them the Torah from Mount Sinai from God and leading them to the promised land. So too every human being has their calling. As Moshe was called by God, we are all called for a mission. We are watching the events in Ukraine unfold tragically, and it's all occurring as we approach the holiday of Purim. Now in the holiday of Purim, there were the antagonists. There was Haman, who plotted to kill and destroy the Jewish people, and there was Mordechai, the proud Jew, who would not bow and would not bend to Haman, and rallied and galvanized the Jews to unite and stand up. And through the intervention of Esther with the king, was able to overthrow Haman, and we saw the downfall and the defeat of evil and the rise and the triumph of the righteous and the innocent. And as we watch the events, we pray that we will witness the same miracles in our present day, in our generation. However, perhaps the events that happened over 2,000 years ago are replaying themselves today before our very eyes. Of course, Putin is Haman, seeking to amass more power at the cost of innocent lives. And Zelensky is the modern-day Mordechai, the proud Jew who stands tall in the face of evil and says, we will not be defeated, and unites the world behind him in defeating evil. And like Purim celebrates the victory of the righteous over the wicked, of light over darkness, we will witness that once again. But it's interesting that this war broke out just as we are finishing with dealing with 2 years of COVID. And throughout COVID, we used terms of war. We said the doctors and the nurses were on the front lines, battling COVID, an invisible enemy. And if there's anything COVID taught us, it was that we have to unite, because what one person does affects every other person. And so too, this is not just a war taking place in Ukraine, but we are all on the front lines, and we all have to play our part. And if we do that together, we will witness the defeat of evil, just like in the days of Haman, and the victory of the righteous. And furthermore, we will see how every single one of us will learn from this tragedy that we should never allow the forces of darkness within our own life to, God forbid, threaten the purity of our righteousness. Because every human being has a little Haman inside of them, an ego that just seeks power and control at the cost and at the expense of others. But every person also has a Mordechai within themselves, a righteous soul that is not afraid to stand up and speak a voice of clarity, of morality, of righteousness, and stand up to the dark forces in this world. What's interesting is that COVID, according to most speculations, was a crossover from the animal world into the human world. The evil we're seeing today is a crossover from the human capacity, from the human dimension, to the bestial, animalistic drives of man. When we see how a human being could become animalistic, we have to realize that we all have within us a godly and an animal soul. And we have to make sure that the righteous dimension, the righteous soul, the Mordechai, proud Jew within ourselves, is always brave and courageous and willing to put up the fight to defeat the dark side of human nature. May we be triumphant in this war, and not just the war on the global scene, but the war that rages within the heart of every human being. And may we turn towards the side of righteousness and goodness in our relationships with one another, and tip the scales of goodness in the world to defeat darkness and evil by being more embracing, more loving, more generous to one another, and allowing our human godly soul to prevail and shine forth. Have a wonderful day.